Thank you all for coming to our 6th annual St. Patrick's Day breakfast. I think it's terrific that we can gather together like this again to celebrate and lightly roast one of our fellow Central Vermonters. We look forward to this event every year at the Chamber. It gives us an opportunity to recognize a Central Vermonter who truly stands out in their contributions. Record turnout speaks for itself. Bob truly is a value to our community. And now, to offer a few opening remarks, a man who needs no introduction.
Thank you, Kevin. Let's see if I can get this mic to work. Mic's not going to work like that. So thanks, Kevin. My name is Matt Musgrave. I'm with the Associated General Contractors, and I've been volunteering with this Chamber of Commerce for about 4 or 5 years now, and I'm now happy to stand here as the chair, and in actually a pretty monumentous occasion. This is the most smiling faces that I think that I've ever seen at one time. So give yourself a round of applause for getting through the last 2 years. I'd also like to give a round of applause to our staff at the Central Vermont Chamber. Through all the hardships that they went through, dealing with challenges from having to help members deal with this pandemic as it came out, dealing with the financial challenges of working through some of the pieces and the parts that just the staff had to deal with, from working from home to be able to deliver the services to our community that are so important to our thriving businesses. For our businesses, Kevin reached out on a very, very regular basis talking about different programs that our state and federal government put out to help you run your businesses through this hard time. The staff also was there answering the phone, talking to you, trying to keep a positive mental attitude in such a hard time. Our chamber looked at different ways for you to expand your businesses, whether it was going online, inventing new products or services, and helping you when you had those difficulties. I also want to thank them for their dedication. The amount of work that they've put in, particularly since Kevin joined as our CEO and president, has been monumental. They've added a lot of members on a fairly regular basis, to the point where during a board meeting yesterday, we had Jeanette fly in at the last minute with another new member. Thank you, Jeanette. The social media contact, the engagement that our membership has been receiving from our staff has been monumental. So I just want to say thank you to the staff, and please give them a round of applause. So I'm going to give a cheap plug here. For those of you that were at annual meeting, you know that my single most important job as the chair is to find my replacement. I only want to do this for 1 year. And what that means is I'm going to be looking for recruits. I'm looking for people to join our committees, whether it's government affairs, finance, our membership committee. I'm going to be looking for people to join our board and become engaged with our community. So if you have anyone, a young rising star, someone that's an established member of our community that you think could provide a benefit to this group, please have them reach out to Kevin or myself, and we'll talk to them about how they can engage, how they can volunteer, and help build this great community that we have. So far be it from me to stand between you and breakfast. Because you're smiling now, I don't want to lose that. So we have our breakfast served back there, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes to introduce some of our speakers today. So thank you for joining us, and it's time to eat. I hope your breakfast is going well. We're going to move on with our program, but keep on eating, okay? So we're going to introduce some friends of our guest. Guest of honor. Before I introduce our guest of honor's friends, I want to introduce a couple of other folks. We're lucky enough today to have the crew of the USS Vermont joining us today, and I think we should all give them a round of applause. thank you for all the hard work you do. It's an amazing endeavor that you're on, and we really appreciate it, and can't thank you enough. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce some friends of our guests of honor, and I'm going to start out with Mark Browning and Reuben Stone. Would you join us up here at the podium, please?
Check 1, 2. This thing on? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, I got down. This thing's broken. We're gonna go down one.
Hello? I hope everyone enjoyed their breakfast. But so first off, good morning, and thank you everyone for allowing us to be here and the opportunity to speak for one of our great friends, Bob Nelson. But I think before we get started, we obviously want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. This event absolutely incredible. But most importantly, I think we want to thank our main sponsor for the event, Aubuchon Hardware. So shout out to the folks in the green and orange. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to get these awesome shirts that we are wearing today. But let's be honest, today we are here to celebrate the face of Nelson Ace Hardware. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. B. Sorry, Bob Nelson. Bob Nelson.
For those of you that don't know us, this is Mark Browning and I'm Reuben. We're the owners of SB Property Management. You might be asking yourselves, why did they pick our ugly mugs up here to, you know, we can talk. Yeah. Well, Bob, you messed up my punchline. You might be asking yourselves why they pick our ugly mugs to be up here and talk about Bob, the biggest tool at Nelson Ace Hardware. As Bob so politely put, we're asking that ourselves as well.
But all jokes aside, Bob, seriously, we'd like to start off by just thanking you for allowing us to be here. We get to treat our team, part of our team, to a nice breakfast one last time. Unfortunately, after today's event, we have to go through a series of layoffs because we spent so much money at your hardware store.
Are you hired? Yes.
So eat up, team. But it is really nice to see some incredible faces here, a lot of familiar faces out here just supporting an incredible human being. But we find ourselves questioning how much store credit did you have to get folks or pay folks to be here today?
Well, looking for inspiration for this speech today, Mark and I did what any millennial would do. Yeah, we're on the older side, but yeah. We did what any millennial would do when we turned to the Facebook. And one of our favorite pictures we found of you, Bob, was on your wedding day. Rocking the mullet. Business in the front, party in the back, right? I think we can all agree it's a bit more business today, huh?
But speaking of weddings, I was fortunate enough to have Bob and the incredible band Native Tongue play at our wedding. Not our wedding. We're business partners, not partners, not there's anything wrong with it, but my wife and I's wedding. And what an amazing treat that was. It was seriously absolutely incredible, something we'll cherish forever. But speaking of music, doesn't Ace have a theme song?
I think they do.
Isn't it something like, Ace is the place with the boss that hides upstairs? Or it's something like that. But all jokes aside, Nelson's really is a phenomenal asset to our community. And Reuben and I were talking though, and we think you might have got the name wrong. I think it's something more like the Annette and Kelly Hardware store. But seriously, you are one of the few people whose opinion and approval we truly value. We are approaching 8 years in business, and we attribute a significant portion of our success to you. You've been a leading example on what it means to be a great business owner, a boss, a friend, and a partner.
One of our earliest memories of Bob as, owners of a business was when we were looking to open our collaborative office in downtown Barre. We were young, didn't have any money, didn't know what we were doing, and we trotted on down to Ace Hardware and said, "Bob, would you like to donate some paint to a worthy cause?" And he said, "Yeah," without hesitation. Little did he know it was going to be about 10 gallons of paint, $800 later, and we still had no money, but we had a great painted office. And we really appreciate that. Your dedication to our community does not go unrecognized. This is my party. Bob does a lot for us, and he teaches us a lot. I mean, he gives us Christmas gifts, fatherly advice, even when we don't ask for it. And he's also taught us how to pick out a good bottle of tequila. Important. Did you bring one? No, we talked about it.
But speaking of tequila, for the past few years, for Christmas gifts, we've always gifted each other back and forth a nice bottle of tequila. And again, Reuben and I were talking, and we're like, Bob, you know, you kind of remind us of the little worm in the bottom of the tequila bottle. Everyone knows you're there, and they either love it or they hate it. But luckily, we love you, Bob. So, I got a question for you, though, Reuben.
Sure.
So, Reuben, if you had to describe Bob in one single word.
Bald.
Okay, yes. Bob does have an infectious smile, a resounding voice, and a nice, clean, non-existent hairline. But let's think of something a bit more flattering. How about humble, caring, thoughtful?
Tender.
Tender?
Tender.
Okay, go on.
Bob, if you were a piece of meat, I'd put you on my Traeger grill. Good, low and slow, 225, 8 hours a minute.
But speaking of Traegers, I thought this was a roast. Speaking of Traegers, Home Depot's running a hell of a special on Traegers. You should check them out.
All right, that's enough joking around. After all, we're not here to roast you, Bob. We're here to, all these individuals in this room love you, and that's why they're here. You've taught us some incredible life lessons, how to be a good owner, how to give back to our community, and how to put others ahead of yourself, and most importantly, how to be a down-to-earth, genuine human being. Let's be honest, though, green really is not our color. I think we look
a hell of a lot better in red.
We do, absolutely. Boom. Boom.
So, can we all raise our glasses for Bob Nelson and Nelson Ace Hardware for being just an incredible part of our community as we put on our red Ace Hardware shirts.
Well, with friends like that. So Bob, I realize that you may feel like a victim through all of this roasting, but I want to introduce to you a true victim that sits in the room. Bob's direct report, Annette Boisvert. Please come up.
Good morning. Well, that's a heck of an act to follow. Jeez. I have worked for Bob at Nelson Ace Hardware for 30 years. I know what you're thinking. I look way too young to work for anybody for 30 years, and you're right. You're absolutely right. The answer to that mystery is that Carrol Nelson, Bob's dad, hired me when I was about 5, right, Carrol? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we do have actually many long-term employees at Nelson's, which speaks to the kind of person that Bob really is. He is a true leader, the type of leader that lifts others up with him and never expects anything in return. He will be the first to tell you that it's not him that makes things happen, it's the people around him. Well, we all know that's not true, or we wouldn't be here at this event today, right? Obviously, Bob's got a little something to do with it. But I do believe you get back out into the universe, what you put out into it, it comes back to you, right? So if Bob is surrounded by bright, capable, motivated, and community-minded people, it's because that's exactly the kind of person that he is. I'm going to repeat some words I overheard in a conversation just last week when one of the people Bob has worked with through the Barre Partnership came by the store to congratulate him on this honor. They were chatting about events they'd worked on previously when Bob said to her, well, I'm really not the driving force behind a lot of the stuff that happens in the downtown. To which she replied, well, that may be true, but you always pull the wagon. Bob always pulls the wagon. And he brings everybody else along with him. He raises them up. That's the kind of person that he is. And if you know Bob really well at all, you know he's really patient, relaxed, and he never gets worked up about anything. Did you see the first person to laugh? Mrs. Nelson, right there. But he'll tell you it's only when his employees test him, right? Us, so it has to be that he gets worked up.
Why are you hanging your head?
There might be a little truth to it. Just a little. We don't push his buttons on purpose. It just kind of happens naturally. For as long as I've been working in the downtown, and even before that, Bob has been the go-to guy. The if you need it done, and you need it right now, done guy. He doesn't ever say, "That's not my job," or "Why didn't," or "Why doesn't so-and-so do it?" Or even that he's way too busy, which most of the time he really is. He is the first person to say, "I like to work on putting out fires." And that is something that Bob's very good at, problem solving and making sure nothing gets missed along the way. He's one of the busiest and hardest working people I know, working long hours not only at the store, but for the city and the town of Barre. He is a person that is guided by his moral compass. He isn't afraid to pitch in wherever and whenever help is needed. And Bob is many things to many people. I, for one, feel lucky to call him not just employer, but much more importantly, family and friend. Congratulations, Bob, on this honor. I can't think of anyone who deserves it more. Love you.
Thank you, Annette. The next person I'd like to introduce worked with Bob on a number of different Barre initiatives, from the Barre Partnership to the Barre Merchants Bureau and We Dig Barre. I'd like to introduce Mary J Magnan. Would you please come up to the podium?
I'll stand next to you if you like.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Good morning, everybody. My first thought is, how are we all doing standing here and speaking with that bar closed? I think it deserves a tailgate party out back.
Probably a good thing.
And Annette, you rocked it. And I'm so glad I didn't have to follow Marcus and Reuben. So, as many of you know, when Bob thanks you or sends you a card to say thank you, he always says, "Thanks for all you do." We've all heard it. Bob thanks everyone for all they do when he's the one who's doing a lot for this community. So I wanted to share with you a few things that Bob does. Get ready. We've worked together for many years on many committees and on the Barre Partnership Board. Anytime I've had to speak in public, I've gone to Bob and asked him to speak with me. As you can tell, I'm not very comfortable with public speaking, and Bob is my support on this. So I always, am I? Okay. So Bob is my support when it comes to this. He never asks questions. He just says sure and accompanies me wherever I go to speak. I even suggested that he come with me today and stand beside me for his own breakfast because I was nervous. And his answer was, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." And he meant it, because that's what Bob does. The Barre Partnership sponsors an employee appreciation dinner every year. That's one of the occasions that I asked Bob to host with me, and he just comes right along. It's a dinner where we honor the employees who work in our downtown. We ask merchants to donate an item, one, and then we would give away door prizes at the dinner. Bob came to me a few years back, and he suggested that we try to find a way to make sure that everyone who comes leaves with a gift. So the committee came up with a way to do that. Now, when it comes time for Nelsons to donate an item, one, Bob shows up with 20 to 30 items and says, "Let me know if you need more." And he means it, because that's what Bob does. Anytime I've needed anything from Bob having to do with the Barre Partnership or the Merchants Committee, I barely get the words out of my mouth. "Bob, I have a favor," or Bob, I have a question, or Bob, can you? And he responds, what do you need? And then, sure, anything, Mary Jane. And then he thanks me for all you do. Because that's what Bob does. And when the COVID shutdown came 2 years ago, and retail was deemed non-essential, our store was closed and my family was home for 8 weeks. No matter how busy Bob was, he would call every week to check in, talk, see how we were all doing, because that's what Bob does. Then in January of last year, when my family got COVID, and we had to shut down the store again for 2 weeks, Bob found time to call every few days to see if we needed anything, were we feeling okay, is there anything he can do? Because that's what Bob does. I'm sure there are many other people in here who've had similar experiences with Bob who would agree with me on this. Every community should have a Bob Nelson. We are very fortunate and truly blessed that we have the one and only Bob Nelson in ours. Linda. Thank you, Bob, for everything you do.
So I learned something about Bob that I didn't know today, and that Bob is actually in a very popular band known as Native Tongue. Native Tongue is very well known for being a resident gig up at the Tunbridge Fair. And one of the stories I heard earlier was one of the ways that they introduced their bands was a certain guest of honor came out on stage and said, "Tom Petty is God." So I'd like to introduce you to one of his bandmates. They've played music for almost 30 years. TJ Powers, would you please come on up?
Is this on? I didn't know this many people were going to be here, so. So, very nice roast by Marcus and Reuben. The problem with that is very funny and everything, but that just means you don't know Bob that well because he doesn't have any dirt on you. And I've already been threatened that if I say too much, there will be rebuttal. High school class. So it was 1993 when I met Bob Nelson. So that's kind of a long time ago. And my older brother worked with Rob Boisvert. And he said, "Hey, I know this guy who has a band, they're looking for a guitar player." And me being 15 years old, about 115 pounds at the time, I'm like, that sounds pretty cool, let's go check it out. So my older brother takes me over, I can't drive yet, so he drives me over to Rob and Annette's house, and I walk down in the basement, and there's this really cool band room set up, drum kits, amplifiers, and Rob's there sitting behind his drum kit, and our friend Vic was playing guitar at the time, and he's there smoking cigarettes and tuning his guitar, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, these guys are pretty cool. And, you know, Vic's tuning his guitar, and we start talking and making small talk, and I'm hooking up my amplifier and my guitar, and Rob and Vic are playing this Metallica song, Nothing Else Matters. Vic's trying to work out the intro on his guitar. So I'm like, wow, these guys play some hard rock and roll. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. So, you know, I start strumming along, and we get to the part where the singing starts, and there's nobody there to sing. So we played that intro probably 5-10 times, and we'd always stop when the singing was supposed to start. And Rob asked me, "Do you sing?" And I'm like, "Nope, not a bit." So Vic asked Rob, he's like, "Well, do you think Bob can sing Metallica?" And Rob was like, "I don't think Bob's much of a Metallica guy." And you know, we just didn't know. I'm like, "Who's this Bob guy they keep talking about?" And Rob's like, "Oh, he's going to be our singer, but he owns a business downtown and he can't be here for practice." So I'm like, "Well, how are we supposed to be rock stars if this guy owns a business and can't even show up?" So we played Nothing Else Matters a few more times, and then Rob asked me, "Is there any songs you want to do?" And I'm like, "Boy, what can I do that might impress these guys? I'm a country guy. I play Waylon Jennings and some Buddy Holly and stuff like that. So we picked a song that was popular at the time, Two Princes by Spin Doctors. And we played that song about 15 times that day. Still no vocals because Bob wasn't there. So after we get done that practice, it was fun and everything, we played 2 songs. And we're like, hey, we're a band. So the next week my brother takes me back to practice and I finally get to meet Bob. And I walk down in Reuben and Annette's basement to the band room. And there's this older guy there with the flowing mullet. He's sporting a Celtics tank top. And I'm pretty sure he had a Richard Simmons headband on. So I'm like, who is this guy? Looks like he should be singing show tunes at the Barre Opera House. Rock singer? And in point of fact, Bob was in the Barre Players and did sing the show tunes. To this day, every once in a while, he'll still break out, hey there, you with the stars in your eyes. In the Pajama Game. I don't know if he's ever in that play, but he must like it. So, we did the introductions and played some of the songs that you hear every time you go to a bar. And it was time to pull out Two Princes. And lo and behold, Bob knew the song, we got through it. We did that song probably 150 times between 1993 and 94. And then we didn't do it again until about 2018. When I pulled it out at my 40th birthday party, and Bob knew every word still. So, it's pretty amazing. So, in all seriousness, I gotta find my place now. Little did I know, 29 years later, we'd be here celebrating Bob. That first practice produced a lifetime bond with the guys in that band. It's lasted longer than most marriages. I know for a fact. Bob tried to tell me. We've been friends since that day. We may have changed some members and added some new people, but that band has always had a strong bond since that day. And I've already said Bob threatened me because I can't tell that many stories. Bob's always told me what happens in band practice stays in band practice. What happens at deer camp stays at deer camp. There you go. So I can't really share a lot of the shenanigans we've been through. Barry's lucky to have Bob. Many kids that have learned life lessons in his store are, you can't count them. He started a lot of kids in this community off with a firm foundation. And the table over there with his employees, they know that they're lucky to work for such a great man and a family business. He's sensitive too. Around 2001, I made the mistake of consoling Bob by telling him that people didn't want to listen to the words of Crazy Train, they just wanted to hear the music to it. He wasn't sure how well he could sing it. I said, don't worry, they're not going to listen to you sing it, they just want to hear the guitar parts. And he's still sensitive about that, he brings it up today.
No, what you said was that the vocals are just the empty space between guitar solos.
It was a long time ago. In our music, we do everything we do with respect for the artists we play, and we set a high standard for performing in front of people. That standard, that pride, and that respect all center around Bob. He's pushed us to be better and set high expectations, all the while building an unmatched love for music and performing. My life revolves around music, and Bob's been a big part for 29 years now in that love of music. From a personal standpoint, and he probably doesn't even realize this, Bob's been there for just about every milestone in my life. Let's see. Probably he might remember, he's watched me play in the high school state championship basketball game. He was there when I got my driver's license. He was there when I graduated high school, graduated college, got my first job. He was there for both of my weddings. He's been there for all 3 of my kids being born, and losing my dad. And he's that go-to guy for me. I've got 2 brothers, and Bob's my brother by choice, my go-to guy. I even got him one time, as a Giants fan, to go to a Pats game with me, so that's pretty special. There's picture evidence of that too, by the way.
On Facebook.
I'm lucky to have Bob. I can't say how lucky I am to have Bob, and I don't know what I'd do without him. He's truly a hero to me. And Barre's lucky to have him working on their side. So it's a long time, and I'm no longer that 115-pound 15-year-old. I'm twice the man I was then. But Bob still always has time to tell me to turn it down. Thanks, Bob. Love you, buddy.
The New York Giants. But you know that too. So our next guest, our next speaker, had the opportunity to be our guest of honor last year at a much smaller event. I don't know if it was because of the guest or it was because of COVID, but one way or the other, I'd like to introduce Gary Haas. Would you please come up here and take advantage of your opportunity to dish back what you got last year.
Thank you very much. Wow, this is my 70-year-old happy dance standing before you. I really am happy. This is a great occasion. Not only because Bob so deserves the Community Recognition Award that he's getting today, but because this is a I told you so day from last year when I was asked to be in this position and I felt so undeserving. I said I could come up with 50 people that should be up here instead of me. And that, but on top of my list, and I said this at that time, Jeanette can verify that.
The microphone up to your mouth.
Good? Sorry about that. That Bob Nelson should be the guy that would be recognized. Here's a guy, we're in the middle of COVID. He's renovated, he's opened up about 25% more showroom space. He's completely renovating his store into a state-of-the-art Ace Hardware store. And this was all during COVID restraints and whatever, staffing and social distancing and making sure everybody was clean and safe when they came into his store. I really, well anyway, so that's why I'm so happy that the Chamber recognized him. And look at what we've got here. This is an amazing turnout. Speaking of that new store, I can't always find some of the things that I need when I go in there, but fortunately, the staff is always there to help out. And I think they can recognize somebody that's in a deer in headlight saying, and I think I am, but that's something that Bob always stresses with his staff, that they always on lookout to help people. If they see somebody, how can I help you or something like that. That's a really good thing that you don't always get everywhere.
Well, your donuts help, Gary.
My donut diplomacy that Bob was talking about. And as we've heard that Bob's the quiet guy, the guy behind the scenes, wants to be anonymous whenever possible, and he's so quick to give the credit and kudos for what he does to other people. He probably has supported more organizations and community events in this town than we could count. We know he's the go-to guy for the Barre merchants when they need something at City Hall, or whether there's a community project going on. Bob and the Nelson team is always there. And those Nelson teams they're the team to beat out there for the most part. We also, and he would do all of this in addition to working long hours at the store. So that's what always amazed me. How's he able to do this? And then he does the same thing for Barre Town, the town of Barre, that he resides in. So he really admire, amazing guy. By the way, my original idea was to stand up here and just give a few heartfelt words about Bob, and fortunately my sales associate, Kay Stanmore, said, no, write it down, Gary, you'll definitely lose it. But anyway, Bob is a genius. He is absolutely a genius. And now I will say this, I was always going to say too, and above all the things that he does, he's a great singer and guitar player. You know, where does he get that talent? I'm not sure, but
Not from him.
Not from Carrol. But one thing I've always said about Bob is that he is married to a true angel, Linda. And that's something he wholeheartely would always profess to anybody. Bob, you're married to an yes, I am. Probably always says. And I have to admit something to you, Linda, that you've saved me many times over the years when maybe I made a mistake on a Nelson ad, and Bob, I'd be in the store and Bob would be correcting me. Fairly, but unmistakably that he was upset. So I would wait for Bob to kind of run through what he was going to say, and then I would say, hey, was that Linda? I saw her come in the store with your dog earlier, and then Bob would just look at me and he would say, okay, pass, get out of here. Something like that. I think it was because he would always know that Linda would be very unhappy with him if he was ever mad at somebody else for very long. And so I always had that thing, so thank you, Linda, for the few times I did make mistakes, and thank you for getting me out of it. The other item that I've always treasured is when I would go in the store and Carrol would be in the store visiting, and I'd go in and I'd see him standing there talking to Bob and the staff, and he would have a smile from ear to ear, and he'd just be looking around at how amazing the business, what Bob's done with the business. And it's such a great feeling. It's like, you know, you hand your son a football and he runs for a touchdown down the side. It's a really, really good feeling. Oh, I got one more page here. So Bob, you clearly deserve this amazing award for so many different ways. You are great to all of us in Central Vermont, and you are the backbone of our community, and you make this a special place. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I've got some raffle tickets.
Yes.
So, thank you.
So our next guest speaker should worry Bob a little bit, because this individual probably knows Bob as well or better than anybody else in the world, and I'm sure he has a lot of great stories to tell, and I'm sure Bob's worried about the embarrassing ones. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Carrol Nelson.
Good morning, everyone. Bob didn't talk until he was 3 years old.
I don't believe you.
It was true, absolutely true. And when he was 5 years old, he would walk into a room full of people. He'd extend his hand and said, "Hi, I'm Barre Nelson." Thank you. I said at that time, he's going to be a politician. His mom always wanted him to be a doctor, but he got business in his blood, and he couldn't get out of it. And he's done it extremely well. When he was 8 years old, he was with me most of the time. We were fixing this and fixing that, and working at the store. And some of the projects are larger than others. One, the deer camp. But all he would say, "Dad, all we ever do is work." I said, "You're right, son. But that's the only way I know how to get ahead." And after his mom died, since his mom died, he's called me every day to see how my day is gone. He says that I look forward to that. I just look forward to it. I'm going to tell you a story on a cold winter night. Bob was 13 years old. And I have 2 people I sent home because it was cold and snowing a week before Christmas. And I saw somebody come in. I was in my office and I could look out and see what's happening. Bob was there. He came in about 20 minutes and he said, "I got a man that wants to talk to you. You done something wrong?" "I don't think so." This guy came in and he says, "I'm Major Rod from St. Johnsbury. I'm a roofer." He said, "Is that your son?" I said, "Yes, it is." "How old is he?" I said, 13. He said, "I got a check here for $1,700. That man, that youngster of yours, sold me this in 20 minutes on one condition. That he comes over to St. Johnsbury and teach my salesmen how to sell." That was my Bob. He's always been a joy for me, and I'm sure his mom is looking down at him and smiling and said, "Son, you did a good job." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carrol. You're a hard act. So, Nelson has been serving Central Vermont at retail for 150 years. Nelson's has expanded 4 times in the last 39 years, most recently last year. Something that I like to point out about a hardware store in our community is it is a place that we all come to meet each other. It's a place that we provide help to each other. It's a place that we provide advice to each other. It's a place that we support each other. It's also a place that we know when we hear somebody yell that they hit their hand with a hammer, that nail probably came from Nelson's. We know that when we go back and forth dozens of times because I forgot that one little thing, we're going to Nelson's. I want to thank you from the contracting community who I represent.
both electricians, general contractors, carpenters, of the like. We really appreciate your service to the community when people come in and buy gear to fix their homes and make it worse, and we get to go and finish the work for them. Thank you, Bob. We really appreciate this. It means a lot. It keeps me employed. Nelson's has been chosen as the best hardware store, best paint store, best customer service regularly by Central Vermonters. He was at the Barre Merchants Bureau Vice President from 1983 to 1994, showing a dedication to volunteerism, only furthered by being with the Barre Partnership for 10 years, 95 to 2005, and then somehow they convinced you to come back as president for another 4 years in 2011. You've been on the town budget committee for a very long time, which I can only imagine how challenging that can be, particularly in the last couple of years. You operate on the Barre Select Board and the Barre Police Advisory Committee. We're happy to have you here, Bob. I feel privileged to stand before this crowd on this day with these smiling faces to introduce you as our guest of honor at the St. Patrick's Day breakfast. Bob, would you come on up to the podium?
Thank you all very much. So, first of all, I'd like to recognize the servicemen from the USS Vermont one more time. Please, another round of applause. And I want to thank the Central Vermont Chamber. We get a number of emails each week from Tanya. And each time I would open one, I expected that it would be telling me that they made a mistake and it's they'd chosen somebody else to honor. All the sponsors, everybody that spoke, Gary for the recommendation, I appreciate it. So, Annette kind of stole my thunder and a couple other people because there are a lot of you out here that I made music with, that I work in the city with, or the town. I work in the downtown with, that I work in a capacity as partners in building and service. Again, you folks are the ones that really kind of make things go. And I'm honored to be up here and humbled. But it really is about the people that you have around you. And as I look around the room, there's an awful lot of really good people here. And I'm very fortunate that to have all of you as part of my lives. We talk about, I have families. I have my hardware family. I have my musical family. I have my hunting camp family. I have my family, my dad, my sisters, my cousin Dave is here, and my Aunt Barb, all important parts of my life. And then there's the community family that I'm very fortunate to have. TJ, when he spoke, he was about that big when he came in that day, and I'm damn glad that Rob and your brother got you there that day. I don't know where he is. There he is. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm happy to share a stage with you for so many years, and with all of my musical family. And thank Rob for calling me up one evening and saying, "Hey, you want to be in a rock band?" That was fun. It is fun. Annette, thank you for your kind words. I'm going to steal, as a matter of fact, the notes that I wrote down is that she lifts everyone up around her and makes things better. It makes the Nelsons such a nice place to work and a nice place to be part of, because of she and Kelly and the rest of the staff that all come, and they work so hard and they do it with a smile on their face, and make it easy for those of you that come in and shop. So thank you to all of you. MJ's another one that lifts people up, and she makes things better. And she is absolutely 100% Barry's best cheerleader. So I look forward to continuing to work with you. Mark and Reuben. The only thing I can say is that at least you didn't dance and sing. And when you guys get so that you can drink tequila with me, we can talk a little bit more, all right? Thank you. I appreciate our partnership. I appreciate the fact that you guys run your business in an old school manner, yet also grasping the things that make the newer businesses today great. You guys, you understand the respect that is needed for your staff and your people, but you guys also grasp the fact that you need a break and you need time away, and that the people that work with you need time away as well. So I really appreciate the way that you guys run the business. My wife, Linda, is a huge part of who I am. She's glaring daggers at me right now. She does not want to be recognized. She hates to have the spotlight on her. So fortunately, the spotlight has been on me most of these years, but I truly, literally cannot do it without her. My dad. My dad flew 2,200 miles to be here. When I told him about this, I said, Dad, it's not a big deal. You don't need to come. I'm coming. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll let him know. He said, I want to speak. And I said, no. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I just don't. But he's right. I did tell him. No, multiple times when I was young. All we do was work. We were cutting wood, we were tending the garden, we were mowing. But the important thing that I didn't necessarily recognize until I got older was that we were spending time together. And so now, when we spend time together, we're not working all the time. But at almost 90, he can still outwork me. And I can tell you this, that when I grow up, I want to be as tough as this guy is. He's a tough. So, yes, thank you, Dad. So I talked about how I have all these different families, and all the families are important to me, every one of you. And there are times when one family has to take a backseat to the other. Occasionally that's Linda, because I said, I'm sorry, I've committed to play a gig, or I have to work, or I have to go to deer camp. The boys can't do it without me. But there are times when I can't make a gig because one of my other families needs me, and the same thing where I give up time in deer camp because one of my other families needs me. I'm so lucky to have all these little family units, and I'm so lucky to have all of you folks that are here today in my life, and I cherish all of the relationships that we have. If you have an opportunity today, lift somebody up, cheer them up, make them feel good about the day. The sunshine is going to help that quite a lot at 60-degree temperatures. Go forth, be Irish today, and go Cats.
Something to remember the day by.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
you do. Back at you. This is the one that works? All right. So lastly, two quick things. Number one, please on your way out, please steal the hand sanitizer bottles. We are sick of carrying them back to the office between events. And lastly, we are honored again to have with us this morning the commanding officer of the USS Vermont, SSN 792, Commander Charles Phillips, and members of his crew. This is the final day of a 3-day visit, which included a welcoming event at the Lake Champlain Naval Memorial on Tuesday, a day at the State House meeting with several elected officials on Wednesday, and will end with an exchange with Norwich University cadets that will take place later today. Their participation at this morning's proceedings is sponsored by People's United Bank. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our honorary Vermonters on behalf of the Chamber. Thank you for your service. Please take a moment on your way out to introduce yourselves after our presentation completes. Thanks for all for coming.